The Uniplanetary Evolution Theory, the science behind the explosive new novel, The Antichrist, version 666 by Clois Orend II. In our past, the Mayans and many other ancient societies predicted that humanity would be facing a doomsday. If this is true, shouldn't we be looking for another place to live? Rather than trying to find another planet that may not be composed of the same elements we need to exist, why not reuse the last 3 million years on Earth over and over again? This would allow us to evolve for eternity. In Clois Orend's new book, the misnamed Antichrist discovers a way to do just that, and the solution has been hiding in front of our faces since the beginning of time. The symbol of the Ouroboros, a snake swallowing its tail, appears in many ancient cultures, the Mayans, the Egyptians, the Indians, and others. The Ouroboros signifies that time is cyclical, and by the destruction of itself, it also creates the birth of itself. Could the destruction of our world also be the origins of a new life-sustaining Earth? The 8 planets in our solar system are simply different incarnations of Earth evolving in time. Venus is Earth 1 billion years ago, and Mars is Earth 1 billion years in the future, after the cataclysmic event that makes it uninhabitable. Let's look at the composition of Venus. We know that Venus has the same rocky core, and its atmosphere is mostly carbon, just like Earth's atmosphere when it was first formed. Venus also has similar volcanoes like those in Hawaii, and just like Venus, Earth didn't always have a moon. Now look at Mars. We believe at one time it had water and shifting tectonic plates. It once had an electromagnetic field, like the one around Earth that is depleting right now. Is it possible that Mars is Earth far in the future? How can we prove this theory? Mars is too far in the future to find similar geological features, but it does have pyramids in the same formation as the ones in Giza. And just like the Egyptian pyramids, they were built in alignment with the Orion constellation. Could the pyramids in Giza be the same ones we're seeing on Mars? The ancient Egyptians built these structures to warn us of Earth's destruction and how to escape it by traveling in time. If we built a pyramid here on Earth, in Giza, theoretically it should appear on Mars and prove that Mars is a snapshot of Earth's future. How do the other planets fit in? Jupiter is mostly composed of hydrogen. If the hydrogen were to ignite, what would the planet look like? Saturn, though much smaller than Jupiter, has rings of gases and debris floating around it. Could they be vestiges of a planetary explosion? We also know that Saturn's rings are dissipating, either dissolving into the planet or expanding out into space. Uranus, the next planet in line, has fewer rings than Saturn. And the next planet, Neptune, has even fewer rings. If we take a step back and look at the gas planets, we're able to view the progression of the uniplanetary theory. Jupiter before the explosion, Saturn after the explosion, Uranus with the rings slowly fading away, and Neptune with almost no rings at all. What if we're trapped in a bubble of time? Dr. Cuckoo, renowned theoretical physicist, stated that the only energy source strong enough to bend time like a pretzel is a star like our sun. What if our sun has done exactly that? What if we are doomed to relive the same life again and again? During a transit, Venus will travel between the Earth and the Sun, creating the perfect conditions for the birth of a new Earth. Should a planet or an asteroid collide with our Earth during this time, the debris from the impact could be sucked in by Venus's gravitational pull. It could create a new moon for Venus. The leftover debris from the impact will cluster together and create a second moon for Earth, transforming it into the lifeless planet Mars we see today. It would take roughly 6 months for a spaceship to reach Mars or Venus from Earth. Space travel poses many obstacles for astronauts: atrophy, bone depletion, radiation poisoning, solar flares. Nanotechnology could be a solution. Medical nanobots can live and reproduce in the human bloodstream on the same level as bacteria and viruses. They can rebuild tissue and repair damage. For instance, if you had nanobots in your body and were wounded, the nanobots would rush over to that area and regenerate the tissue. From the outside, it would look like you healed yourself. These nanobots would not just remain idle in between repairing tissue. They would make your vision, your hearing, and all your senses flawless. You would notice an increase in strength and endurance. You would become superhuman and immortal. What would humans look like if we had nanobots and the ability to travel in time, to evolve to our fullest potential? In our evolutionary track, the first thing we might lose is our pinky toes and fingers, then our hair because we live in a controlled environment with heat and air conditioning. We would be able to unlock our brain, use its full mass. Would that make us telepathic, psychic, telekinetic? That cause our heads to increase in size? These changes sound disturbingly familiar, like the Greys, aliens that people have been encountering all around the world. Perhaps they are not aliens at all. Perhaps they are evolved forms of ourselves, watching over the timeline, ensuring their existence in the future. If you believe that time travel is possible in the future, you have to realize that there will be signs of it in the past, and the best place to start looking for these signs are the unanswered mysteries in our history. Revisiting these mysteries with nanotechnology and time travel as factors gives us a fresh perspective on what our ancestors might have viewed as miraculous events. Suppose 13 people are able to escape Earth before it's destroyed and travel to Venus, which is now Earth thousands of years ago. Future humans, the Greys, would be watching over these time travelers to ensure they didn't create a paradox which could drastically alter the future and wipe out the Greys' existence altogether. With their superior technology and abilities, the Greys could alter the time travelers' actions simply with a thought, like puppet masters. The first thing our time travelers would have to do is build a pyramid in order to warn themselves in the future of Earth's doom and how to travel back in time to escape it. They would have the knowledge and skills to do it, but the timeline must be followed. If the pyramids were built too soon, they would create a paradox. The Greys, our evolved selves, would see these pyramids as a threat to their existence. They would separate the time travelers to different regions around the world so that they wouldn't be able to communicate with each other. Still needing to build their pyramids, the time travelers would seek help, but the primitive people of the different regions had no language, no culture, or architecture skills. The time travelers would first have to teach them. And in almost all ancient mythologies, there are legends of godlike people coming from the heavens and doing exactly that. The Mayans' Messiah appeared to them as a feathered serpent, as a tall, light-skinned, bearded man, something they had never seen before. He taught them art, language, astronomy, pyramid building, and the concept of time. There is a carving of this man seated at the controls of a flying ship. His hands appear to be working controls, his feet operating pedals. The outline of a modern-day rocket is clearly visible. So they named him the Flying Serpent. It was the only way for them to interpret what they saw. When he left the Mayans, he said that he would return in the future on his birthday. How could he return on his birthday unless he was from the future? Even the concept of God can be considered in the light of this theory. What makes him God? He is the Alpha and the Omega, which means the beginning and the end. He can be in the future and the past. God is basically an eternal, immortal time traveler. Revelations chapter 20. And I saw a new heaven and a new earth, For the first heaven and the first earth were passed away, and there was no more sea. Venus is the new earth. If a human could travel to this new earth with medical nanobots in his system to make him immortal, wouldn't he then be the Alpha and the Omega? Wouldn't he be considered a god? Technology seems mundane to us, but how would someone from 2,000 years ago describe it? In Genesis, Eve is created from the rib of Adam. Now we can take genes and create a species in a lab with no divine intervention. That's technology to us, but a miracle to early cultures. Likewise, the miracle of virgin conception is recreated every day now in test tubes. Could medical nanobots also explain the longevity of life that is described in Genesis? And the Holy Grail? It's a chalice that harvested the blood of Jesus, blood believed to hold the key to immortality. Perhaps blood that is raging with medical nanobots. Now everyone knows the story of Noah, who built a ship big enough to hold 2 of every animal. Today, with technology, we can harness the DNA information of every species that exists on a mini compact disc. This is just an example of how science today can explain the miracles of the past. Satan told Eve that we too can become gods. All we have to do is eat from the tree of knowledge. With top-notch science, biblical prophecy, and speculative theory, the Antichrist version 666 by Clois Orend II may be the timeliest book of the decade and a thriller like none other you've ever read.